Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson, the Raw Life Health Show. I'm so excited. I'm getting ready for the retreat that we're having next month, and people are joining up. It's going to be great. And also, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Dr. Shandell and I had my blood work tested. And I'm just keeping update. I haven't had it tested in about a year's time, maybe even a little bit longer. And working on some things that really weren't where they should be with the blood work. Now, don't get me wrong. The raw food diet, I believe, is the best way to eat out there. But why would I not be meeting all my nutritional needs from a standpoint of my blood work if the raw food diet was so great? Well, I don't believe personally there's any diet out there today where you can get the nutrition you need on a regular basis, because the food, the nutrition in the food is just not there. You take an apple from 100 years ago to an apple today, it is not the same thing. So, if you're going to process that apple even more than just eating that apple, it's even worse. So I don't think there's any diet that has everything we need in it today. However, the raw food diet, I believe, is the best because it's the least processed and has the most of what we need. But most isn't everything. So for years I've been toying around with supplementation. What should we be taking and what shouldn't we be taking? And I think we need to base this on our blood work. Not on what's popular or what's on sale, but on our blood work. So people call me up often and they say, well, I'm taking this, this, and this. And I say, well, why? If you're not looking at your blood work, how do you know what you truly need, or how do you know what's working for you? Again, the diet is very important to get the best diet possible. I believe the diet has the most nutrients is the raw food. For many, many different variable reasons, not everyone can get everything they need from the food. Maybe the food doesn't have it, or maybe the food does have it, and we already have a digestive issue and we're not able to assimilate what we need from the food. There's different things. The key is every situation should be an individual situation, and we should know best what's best for us, not what a doctor tells us or somebody else tells us. So I'm doing great in a raw food diet, and years ago I tried to eat some cooked food, even include some raw animal products in my diet just to see if it would make a difference. And it did make a difference. I didn't feel as good as I do on a raw food diet. The raw food diet, I believe, gives us the most nutrients that we can use while creating the least amount of work to process that food or to digest that food. And that's what we need. We need to give us something that's going to give us the most while our body's using the least amount of work to get it. I look at the standard American diet today and the processed food, and I see the opposite. I see the food giving us the least and making the body work really hard to get that. And I think that goes against what we need to do. Well, what I want to do as we're starting off the year is I want to tell people or show people what I'm eating after almost 20 years on a raw vegan diet. I think it's been 18 years or so now. I don't even know. I stopped counting. But I'm going to show people how I eat now. At our raw food retreat we're having in February, we're going to have raw food recipes from the time you get there all the way to the time it ends. We're going to have raw food recipes. I worked at a raw food restaurant in New York City. I actually owned the world's largest restaurant in New York City. Well, actually, I wasn't the owner, but somebody gave me the keys, and it's a great story how she said, take my building, make a restaurant, and you do what you got to do. So I was the person in charge, okay? But it was just an amazing experience. But I made so many raw food recipes, and back then I ate all those recipes, and I love raw food recipes. I go out to a restaurant now, and I'll eat raw food recipes. But now I do that about once a month. I don't do that like I used to. What I used to do is just breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacking, and midnight snacking, and all the time just eating raw food, saying, I'm on a raw food diet, so this diet is the best diet for me. Well, the diet is great, but if you're eating a lot of raw food recipes, you're going to have gas, your stomach's going to feel like a pinball machine, and it's not good food combining, so it might not be best. I have a lot of people tell me they're eating a raw food diet and they don't feel good. And I say, well, of course you don't feel good because you're miscombining your food, so it's very important. Well, let me give you an idea of what I'm doing now many years later, and I don't recommend or want everyone to do what I do because I have found what works best individually for myself. And that's what you got to do. You got to find out what works best for you and take it from there. And years ago when I met Dr. Fred Bishop, who's been on a raw food diet for many, many years, he said the same thing. He eats very little. And at the time I was just getting into the raw food diet, and he said, you know, you don't want to eat like me because the average person that eats like me, they'll starve. So what happens is the longer you do this, the more efficient your body comes to get the nutrition and what it needs from the food, the less food we actually need. A lot of the toxins are in our body want to come out, so when we first start a raw food diet, we might have to eat a little bit more, not necessarily because we need more nutrition, which may be the case, but also another factor is so we don't detoxify too quickly. So, but as our body is cleaner, we don't have to detoxify as much. We don't need to hold back that detox as much, so we can get by with eating a little bit less. This is one reason why I never recommend an amount of calories for somebody, because there's many variables to determine what we need, and each person is different. So even a person the same size and the same weight might require a different amount of calories than somebody else. A good example is that we could all understand is if you have somebody who's, let's say, a 5'7" and 140 pounds. Oh, that just happens to be me. But if you have two people that are 5'7" and 140 pounds, and one person is a marathon runner and the other person's working a desk job, the same amount of calories isn't going to work for both of them. So I can't say the daily amount of calories should be this amount for this person. No, you got to base on their situation. Well, a more complicated situation or example would be somebody who's two people, the same weight, the same height, but one person's been on a raw food diet for 20 years and the other person's eating the standard American diet. They will require a different amount of calories, they will require a different amount of nutrients, and so on. So we got to look at this from an individual standpoint. All right, so what I did this morning is I got up very early, super early, before the sun got up. I was up, and I was up with the sun because I was praying when I was up with that sun. But then I saw the sun come up, the other sun. And when the sun came up, I did my exercise. I had some exercise this morning. I came home, my wife made the most amazing smoothie. I should have recorded it, but I didn't. But I'm telling you about it now. It was the most amazing smoothie. It had in it raspberries, it had bananas, it had pecans, and it had some green powder. We have the vitamin mineral green. I have a bottle right here. We have vitamin mineral green. We put that in there. We put some moringa powder in there. And I wasn't really there, so I don't know what else you put in there, but we blended that up. I know at least that stuff was in there. And I would say I had about, 20 to 30 ounces of that drink. And that was pretty much what I had for my breaking of the fast, of my nightly fast. And I have a bag here of stuff that I grabbed that I'm going to have today for my food. And basically, I love a nice salad, but I don't eat them often. What I normally do is I just eat the salad greens. Now, these are salad greens. This is baby arugula. It's also called rocket salad in Europe. And then I have some super greens. I don't think this is the best nutritious or way to eat greens. Even though there's a date on here that says when it expires, the advantage is it's quick and it's easy because it's already washed. I can just grab it. I just ran to the store and I got some of these. I think it's much more nutritional to grow your own greens, and growing your own food is definitely the first thing, and get it right out of the ground. Or get the food individually packed. Not packed like this, but just like the way you would find it as a farmer's market, just the greens. And once you put it in a package, you know it's not as fresh. Or it is as fresh because it's packaged, but it's not as fresh because it's processed, packaged. You know what I mean. So anyway, but I got this. I try to get my greens in my diet every day in some one form of another. Maybe the moringa powder and the vitamin mineral green or the barley max as a whole food supplement in my smoothie. But I try to eat greens every day. I know once I get these greens in, then I could do a little bit on the wild side, let's say. I could have a raw food snack if need be. And a raw food snack for me is fruit, okay? But if I'm not eating these greens, I just don't feel as good. So I got these greens. Now it's very important with greens that you chew it very well. Juicing would be even better if you could juice it. But our body should be that juicer, where you're chewing the food and you're making it almost liquefied in your mouth. And then you're swallowing it, so you get those nutrients from those greens. Now, some greens are tougher than others. Kale, for example, is a very tough green. You got to chew it really well. This, I have the arugula and the super greens. Should be okay. So I have that. So that's what I'm going to have. And I'm actually going to eat that in a little while. It's about 11 o'clock now. I'll have that in a little while. Here I have 2 avocados. The reason I got 2 is I usually just have 1. And if you see a video from me from like last year or 10 years ago, yes, I eat different. I'm not eating the same exact way. As the seasons change, I change. But I have these 2 avocados because I had one yesterday and it was so good that I grabbed 2 of them today. So look at that, everybody. Okay, you can see my avocados. Okay, so I have my avocados, and I don't want to hear anyone say, well, you ate this much fat and this much sugar and all. I'm not into that. I'm just into what I'm doing. Then after that, later on, I have an apple. I have some almonds if I'm still hungry after my salad. I try to eat all that together. So I'll eat the salad greens by itself, and sometimes I will make a salad, meaning I might chop the avocado and put it in there, and then it's a salad in there. But this time I'm just going to have the salad greens, then I'll have the avocados, and then I'll have the nuts if I'm still hungry. Most likely won't have the nuts. I just like to have them in case I want them. The apple is, actually I have 2 apples, and my favorite apple, Honey Crisp. And I'll have those around, maybe 4 o'clock. I'll have the 2 apples. And that's pretty much it. Now when I get back to my house after my work, maybe 4:30 or so I have the apples on the way home. And each day it might be a different piece of fruit. If I'm still in the mood, I'll have another smoothie or an almond milk or something. I always do my best to eat, I actually do eat before the sun comes down, before it's dark. And the sun's coming down now about 5:30. And people might say, well, how do you do that in the wintertime? It's not difficult, especially when you start eating earlier. And okay, you go to sleep early and you get up earlier, it makes it easier to not eat at nighttime. But if I'm up all night and sleeping all day, I'm going to be hungry at nighttime. Anyway, that's the way I'm doing it. That's what I'm doing. And so that's it. I'm going to eat this in half hour or so, enjoy it. And that's not ideal. Again, ideal would be to pick it out of the ground myself, to munch on it myself right out of the ground. And that would be ideal, to pick the avocados right off the tree and let them ripen on my counter and then eat them when they're ripe. That's ideal. We have to do our best for the situations we're in. And I do have some fruit growing on my trees at home, or my neighbor's trees that I get sometimes. But now this is what I got, and this is how I do it. Now this might seem boring to some of you, but I don't involve my life around, I can't say around food because everything I do is around food, but my excitement comes from other things other than just food. I mean, I love an exotic fruit if I can find one. And I love finding fresh greens. But if it's boring or exciting, oh well. Sometimes my wife will surprise me with a raw food recipe that she made. But again, I don't do that every day, and I don't think that's necessary if you've been doing this a while. Now, when you first get into this, if you're bored and you want to do that, go ahead and do that. All right, that's enough yapping for me. I'm starting the new year off right with this video. If there's any other videos or topics you want to see, let me know. Put your comments and questions below the video. Until then, everybody, if you can get to the retreat in February, I'm telling you, it is going to be raw amazing. Check it out on my website. I'll put the link under the video. Until then, have a great day and a great raw life.